So, Penguins in Madagascar. I heard you were recently featured in a movie, and I'm interested in some of the economics featured in your movie.
Okay.
At the beginning of the movie, you saved Private Zeg by escaping a ship, right?
That's right. But we did get forced onto a block of ice farther away from the penguins.
This represents an economic concept, making trade-offs. Making a trade-off is the act of giving up one benefit for a greater benefit.
In this case, the benefit you gave up was being close to land, and the greater benefit you gained was saving Private.
After this, once you had all grown up, when you were rocketed out of a cannon and broke into Fort Knox, what exactly were you looking for?
I infiltrated the United States Gold Depository and Fort Knox!
Yes, we were trying to get the cheesy dibbles because of how rare they are.
Cheesy dibbles!
Well, before that, you were in Fort Knox, and in Fort Knox, there's a bunch of gold, correct?
Yeah, really expensive.
Well, this gold is an example of land. Land is the natural resources used to produce goods and services. But, going back to the cheesy dibbles, do you know how they relate to economics?
No.
Well, this represents the elasticity of demand for cheesy dibbles, and in this case, for you guys, it's very inelastic.
Elasticity of demand represents how much a change in price will affect the quantity demanded.
Elasticity of demand relates to this clip because it represents how badly you guys from the cheesy dibbles. When the elasticity of demand is low, which it is in this case,
Or, when PED is below 1,
PED being a numerical way to represent the elasticity of demand in this case, it will cause a minor change in demand. Now, as for the reasoning for this, do you think there are any substitutes to cheesy dibbles?
No. Cheesy doubles are the best, and there are no substitutes for them.
Great. That goes along with one of the factors that affect elasticity of demand, availability of substitutes. When there are little substitutes, demand is inelastic. When there are a lot, demand is elastic. So in this case, the demand would be super inelastic because there are so little substitutes. Another economic concept this represents is the concept of a want.
a want is something you desire, but it is not necessary.
The cheesy dibbles are your want in this case. What this also represents is scarcity, the economic principle that limited goods and services are available to meet unlimited wants. This forces people to make decisions, and in your case, you had to break into Fort Knox. What this also represents is marginal cost and marginal benefit. Marginal cost is the cost of giving up one unit, and marginal benefit is the benefit you gain from one unit. In this case, the marginal cost you gave up was your one coin, and the marginal benefit you gained was your cheesy dibbles packet. Let's move on to another one of the events that you happened to cause in your movie, which was the downfall of Dave.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Let's take a look at this clip.
At zoo, after aquarium. Can't see the penguins, man!
The economic concept that this relates to is consumer taste and preferences. Consumer taste and preferences is one of the 5 non-price shift factors in the demand curve.
The demand curve represents how much of a product, in this clip the penguins, consumers are willing to buy at a range of prices at a specific time.
The demand curve relates to this clip because we can see how high the demand is for these penguins, being how many people there are. Re-establishing what we were talking about before, in this case, consumer taste and preferences shifted from favoring squids to favoring penguins. So the demand for squids went down a lot, and the demand for penguins went up a lot.
So the demand for squids went down because of us?
Yes, that's right. Because people think you're cute, they want more of you.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Well, even that didn't work out because the penguins got turned into monsters and no one liked us anymore. But then Private saved the day by becoming the source of cuteness for the monster race. But unfortunately, he got turned into something else.
Immeasurable cuteness? Where the heck are we supposed to get that?
Well, you wouldn't want your penguin friends staying as monsters, would you?
No.
Then the demand for the cuteness of Private in this case would be almost perfectly inelastic, because of how big of a necessity it is.
Well, of course it's a necessity.
That's right, and whether something is a necessity or a luxury affects the elasticity of demand, because when something is a necessity, people will buy it even if the price changes a lot. When something is a luxury, which Private is not in this case, the amount of people willing to buy it will decrease or increase a lot. Now, even though you had Private, you couldn't activate the raid because you were missing batteries to the controller, which you had to have Rico go get, right?
Yeah, that was really annoying.
Well, the batteries represent factors of production, which are the resources used to make goods and services. In this case, the resource was the battery, and the good was the controller. Now, the thing originally turning penguins into monsters was a vial of Medusa serum, right?
Yup.
The vial of Medusa serum is an example of physical capital. Physical capital is the human-made, or squid-made, objects that are used to make goods and services. The vial of Medusa serum was a component of the ray which the squid used to turn all the penguins into monsters. Now, when the penguins are turned into monsters, the exterminators tried to suck them up, right?
Yeah, it was awful.
Those exterminators are an example of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are people who decide how to combine resources to create goods and services. In this case, they combine their human capital, which is another economic concept that I'll explain, with their physical capital, which is the exterminator machines.
I already explained physical capital, so I'll explain human capital more. Human capital is the knowledge and skills a worker gains through education and experience.
Now, while the exterminators work on the hire of the people, another example of organisms that work for another organism is the squids working under their leader squid, Dave.
Yeah, we had to go pretty fast to escape them.
So what this represents is labor, which is another economic concept that represents the effort devoted to tasks for which people are paid. The labor the squids are doing is being a hitman for the squid, basically. Another thing that happened here, at the beginning of your chase, when you gave the guy some money for some music to go along with your chase,
That's music. Something chasing.
was opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the next best thing you gave up. In this case, the next best thing you gave up was your coin for the music, which was the best thing.
You know, another pretty crazy thing that hasn't been mentioned is the time we fell out of the plane with all those boxes.
I make my own options.
Right, and those boxes are examples of goods. Goods are the physical things people buy. Now, the people flying those planes that you were on, that's an example of a service. A service is an action that a person provides for another person.
Well, just like those boxes got destroyed, we also supposedly destroyed a $19 million plane.
Well, when you were on the plane, did you like it?
Yeah, it provided us with a lot of help because we were able to chase after Private.
Great, because that represents utility, which is the usefulness or satisfaction that you get from a good or service. So, because you got a lot of usefulness out of this plane, that means that it had a large amount of utility.
Wow, economics makes a lot more sense now.
I'm glad I could help out, penguins.